We are at the site of the World War II Veterans Memorial in Gloversville, New York. The memorial commemorates the men and women who interrupted busy lives at school, at work, who left the farms and factories of Fulton County and went off to save the world. Some never returned. Those who did were profoundly changed by the experience. As great as their accomplishments and efforts and sacrifices were, no mere marker or monument can fully tell the story of what really occurred, as well as the men and women who experienced it. This was the greatest generation, so named for good reasons. There was no moral ambiguity about the war they fought. Time and time again, in the remarks of these veterans, you will hear about the word duty. It was not just about the way they fought. It was also about the way they conducted themselves, the way they represented us to the rest of the world. Some of these stories are touching and moving. Others have never been heard before. For some of these men, the memories brought back unexpected emotion. They were there as part of history at Guadalcanal, at Normandy, at the Battle of the Bulge, at Iwo Jima. Despite their accomplishments, the story does not end there. From that experience, they came home, resumed normal lives, and built a society and lifestyle that is the envy of the world.
In war and in peace, we owe a great debt of gratitude to these men and women. We may never see the likes of them again. Now, we are pleased to present their stories.
They say he was the first serviceman to get killed in action in World War II, and this is his picture here. And he is on that new monument along with my cousin Bob and my uncle Lee.
Rosa, and I've lived in Gloversville all my life. And on the day of Pearl Harbor, I was sitting in my chair reading a Sunday newspaper, and all of a sudden on the radio, they said that Pearl Harbor was bombed. Well, at that time, I was working in the GE.
When the war broke out, 1941, December 7th, I joined then. I enlisted myself. I never drafted, and I was very happy serving my country. One guy asked me, do you like to be in the Coast Guard? I said, yes, I do. He said, well, I have to transfer to the Woods Marines when you get out. I said, okay, thank you. Then from there, I went to Brooklyn Army Base, put me out to Colorado.
The convoy before us going to Iceland, right, you know, just before you would actually go into port, so to speak. The convoy before us 19 out of 20 ships were torpedoed. 19. Well, that wolf pack was, in those days, very, very efficient, strong. And we really went over on a cattle boat. That was a piece of junk, I'll tell you. And here we are, we're standing there, and you know the torpedoes, they have a stream of bubbles, and it was coming right for us. Right where I was, right where my buddies and I were standing there, you know? But fortunately, it missed. Boy, it went too low. It was too low. It didn't get us.
This ship burning, getting ready to shape up on a convoy out by Ambrose Light. This is the fire and salvage and damage boat that I was on. There was a fire, and we pulled alongside of it, and they thought, gee, it's a funny thing. The crew has abandoned the ship. So this fellow from Cohoes and I went aboard. They used to call him the Jocker because he was a boss man in the Ringling Brother, Barnum and Bailey Circus, and that's what they called him. Him and I were teamed up, so the skipper says, get dressed up, he said, to go down aboard to fight that fire. So him and I go down, we would get the fire off. Come to find out, it was cargo netting that was smoldering away. Well, this Navy commander come alongside with a speedboat. Said, you get it off, boys? Oh, yes. He says, you know what it was? Oh, yeah, cargo netting. He said, it's a good thing you thought it was cargo netting. He said, the next compartment was right full of dynamite. I said, it was? If you'd have saw a little Italian run across the water, I'd have made it right across the Jersey without stopping.
One night I was on watch on the bridge with the captain. It was at night, it was from 8 to 12. And he says to me, here's the glasses, so keep an eye out. Of course, you had all lights out aboard the ship anyway. So I'm looking around here and there, and all of a sudden I see a thing out there look like a submarine. So I says to the captain, I said, I see a sub out there, sir. He says, rig general quarters. So I pushed a button, everybody goes to their general quarters, you know. Come to find out, it wasn't a sub at all, it was a whale. So he says, well, at least you were sure about what it was.
One time I was on patrol on PBY. They had 2 blister guns, one on each side, machine guns. And way at a distance, I seen something there, and I got on the intercom and I told the pilot his location. And we got there, you know what it was? It was a big gray whale, one that shoots water up the river. Was I embarrassed?
Of course, I rode motor cars most of the time on the railroad, and one of the moments I remember something, they bombed the yard in Mainz, Germany. The Germans did, on one end of the yard, and I never heard them. They bombed the hell out of it. And I never heard them here. Woke up in the morning here we're on one end of the yard, and on the other end there was bombing the heck out of the yard. That happened during the night. As I woke up in the morning, I never even noticed.
Well, we landed at Omaha Beachhead, and we went down the nets the same as they did when the original invasion on June 6th. They took us in and dropped us off in 3 or 4 foot of water, and we had to waddle through that and walk up the hill. I saw a very impressive sight when I got to the top of the hill. A cemetery up there. It looked like it went forever. White crosses. It was very impressive.
It's amazing what some of these guys did. And today, though, you're lucky if you can get anybody to talk about it. And nobody ever thought anything about it. I never did for years. I worked with guys that was in like the 4th Division. They hit the beachhead in Normandy. They don't talk about the action stuff, and And you often wondered why, and the only thing I can imagine is like I was watching Tom Brokaw one night, and he was talking about the veterans of World War II, and out of all the veterans, something like 1 out of 6 actually saw action. And so those guys don't want to talk about it, and the guys that didn't see it, they go, I didn't see nothing.
When we went to the island of Peleliu, the 3rd campaign, it was the worst battles ever, because guys that I thought were okay because we were in 2 other campaigns were getting shot by snipers, and we were only actually there 11 days, but the casualties were enormous. I'm Clement Steenberg. I was 19, I joined the Marines 1 month after Pearl Harbor. I was in boot camp 13 weeks, and I was actually in battle in Guadalcanal 6 months later. The Japs at Guadalcanal had control of the sea, and we got our supply lines cut off, and we lived on coconuts and fish heads. Guadalcanal was the first offensive of World War II, in a very important battle. The company got ambushed by the Japs, and 9 guys in my company got killed right away, dead. And that's where this pharmacist mate tried to save the Marines that were wounded there, and he got a Congressional Medal of Honor, and they named the ship after him. We were on the Guadalcanal 4.5 months, and we get rid of the Japs in one battle, and they bring them in by sea on the other end of the island, and we had the battles all over again. Then we went to Peleliu, which was a small island, only 5 miles long, but it was the worst thing I ever saw as far as veterans getting killed, and just a lot of guys getting killed. This is a picture of one of my best friends that got killed in Peleliu.
I didn't want to go there because I figured I'd be going to the Pacific. So when I went to the medical field service school, about that time, about a week after I got called, a parachute medical officer came to all the classes. There were 1,600 doctors there, and he came to all the classes, and he was looking for volunteers. So he told us that he would be at the gym that night, and he would see anybody. He would explain there'd be a film and everything else. So out of those 1,600 doctors, 400 showed up, and they had the film, and then there was about 100 left after that. After he showed all the paraphernalia for jumping, it left 12. Out of those 12, 4 were taken, and I was one of them. But because I went there on that night, my orders were changed completely, and I was sent to parachute school.
And then we went down to the Kasserine Pass, and we started going down there, and all of a sudden we saw all the tanks and everything coming back. The Germans had begun to defeat us at that point.
I was 18 when I landed in North Africa. I turned 19 along Hill 609.
But the heaviest casualties, I think, were at Hill 609, and we worked 24 hours for 4 days, and I don't remember seeing anybody sleeping.
There, we went out and had a night situation. I was very fortunate because I was doing experienced combat duty. And from there, they packed us up and sent us to a little city by the name of Cirillo, which was in Sicily.
Then when D-Day came, we were sent to Fulton Air Base. And everybody got ready there to putting black stuff on their faces.
We were out on a forced march the day before D-Day. It's on the 5th. Trucks pulled up with our equipment on there.
The way one plane exploded because a bundle exploded, killed a few of our men. That was a bad setback.
And everything got in that truck, and they took us down to Little Hampton or Southampton, or one of them places there, to Marc. And we went ashore on Utah Beach in Normandy.
Then we got going, and early in the morning, I'd say, well, no, it was late at night, 11 o'clock at night, and we went south to the Guernsey and Jersey Islands, saw a submarine light over there, and we turned left, went across the peninsula, Normandy Peninsula, and we were dropped at about 2 o'clock.
But they were shooting at us with 88 mortars.
And believe me, we were hit by everything else but the kitchen sink. You can't imagine the maelstrom of activity when you're dropping out of a plane at about 500 feet, 17 feet per second, and you don't know where you are or what, but you see planes crashing down, staccato rhythm from the fires, the cannons and everything else.
We had a sailor on there, had one of these little mining crafts. And he is white as a sheet. We were scared. And this kid, poor kid, I'm going to tell you something. I didn't think I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
You know, I wasn't afraid. I was just apprehensive, that's all.
He was pure white.
And I could see these blue and tan bullets coming by.
And he says, get off here. He said, only a foot deep. We got off right up our neck.
But I was moving my feet to get away from them and all that.
And our first objective, our major objective, was to go to St. Mary and Glees to contact the 82nd Airborne.
And so I went right through an apple tree. Had a lousy way to land, but I landed my feet my rear end.
Consequently, we got to St. Mary and Glees. We started losing people on the way in. The first guy we lost was our platoon sergeant, Iceman, because we were all pretty close. We got to St. Mary and Glees, was flat as a pancake. No parachutes.
So I could see this guy coming with his rifle and going slowly, you know. And I said to myself, I better do something about this. If I don't protect myself, I'll kill him. He's going to kill me, and there's a lot of people depending on me. So I put the knife down to my boot, and I waited for him to get there, and I gave him the password.
Well, by the stone wall. I was by the stone wall. I was there 5 minutes. I had to look up. I see the German coming up there. Had his rifle over his shoulder. Against some 2 Panzerfaust with the anti-tank stuff. He's from here to you from me. There I am. So what do? I just lean on the trigger, right? I was scared that big.
And he started the back so slow I nearly was coming up on him. So he was a new replacement, and he seemed to be awfully nervous, so I told him, follow where he was going, and I'd take care of myself.
Great. So then we proceeded to move out, and that's when I found out about Bob Avery. When we moved in there, we relieved the 99th Division. And I didn't know at the time what his rank was, anyway. I said, you ever hear of Barlow Avery? You mean Captain Avery? Yeah, he said, he got killed. I'm probably the first guy in the area to know that Bart Avery got killed. I remember Bart Avery, he taught us how to play basketball when we were kids. Really something.
During my time there, I met a lot of really nice people. It was like going away to school for me. I was very shy, but I found my mouth. Especially, I guess, when I was Master at Arms. My Lieutenant Raudibush, she says, you've got to be firm with the girls. When they have a cleanup detail, that's what they do, clean up. And let me see. during my Navy time, at the hospital, we really didn't have to go anywhere because they had everything there. They had a swimming pool, bowling alleys. We had dances all the time. In fact, we were told, please, to dance with the patients. A lot of the patients were burn victims, and they made them dress up and go to the functions. And we danced with them. Nice boys.
Very distinguished looking.
But I'll tell you one thing, when we went in the service, they said, don't take a lot of clothes with you, because when you get there, you will be issued your uniform. That's a big joke. I had a little suit that I had bought for Easter, and so I wore that because when I left here, we had big snowbanks and that, and so I figured, well, I'd probably be cool there. But when I got down to basic training, we didn't get our clothes, and I spent my time in that wool suit. And I never did have a complete uniform. This here I had, when I got married, my commanding officer, she let me take her jacket so I would have a complete uniform. This place we went, at Ruston, was set up for a prisoner of war camp. It had all the barbed wire all around it, big towers where they could watch over. And the barracks were the tar paper covered buildings. And I said, the latrine was two rows, 25 toilet seats, back to back, no partitions. And then they had the wash basins along the wall. And the shower was one big room, and it had just the shower heads coming out. There was no partitions there either. No privacy. And, but we had nice officers, and we had pretty good meals considering how things were.
Well, I think the most memorable was the time they gave whatever happened to the German prisoners, that we had them in the middle of the night on the floor. There must have been 40 of them. And we were told they had ate something, and that's all. And they were really, no matter who it was a human being you were feeling sorry for, because they really suffered a lot for that night and other nights.
Now, how did you happen to meet your husband in
Oh, he was one of the patients. He came off the boat from England, and he came in the middle of the night. And we were at Fort Devon, which is only 40 miles from Boston. So they brought him in at night in the Whitehall, and the only place I could put him was in the sunroom that had an extra bed. So the next morning, I stuck a thermometer in his mouth, and he said to me, Lieutenant, can I take that bed down by the latrine? He said, it's going to be empty, the fellow's leaving. And I said, yes, after the fellow leaves, you go down there. So after that, he was only about 10 feet from my office. He was there quite a lot. But we had he was a very nice person. And we had one fellow in the ward that was from Gloversville, but I didn't know that. But he was a strange fellow that couldn't get along with anybody. So he come up to me one day and said, I'm getting out of here. And I said, where are you going? He said, Utica. So I knew there was a hospital in Utica. So I thought, well, he's going to the Mohawk Valley. So I said, whereabouts in Mohawk Valley? So a place you never heard of. I said, where? He said, Gloversville. And my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, went right off the carriage. He was sitting on one of the carriages. He fell right off the carriage.
I did see this lady. She was Helen Keller. She visited the patients. She couldn't hear, see, or talk, but she had her helper with her, and the fellows were just thrilled. The fellows were just thrilled.
Well, I'll tell you a little lie. I used to go in these bars, and then Woody Herman had that good chopper's ball, and the bass player predominated on it. Well, guess who was the bass player that was in Woody Herman's house? That was in the Army. That was me. And that was good for a lot of nice free drinks, I'll tell you. Who'd you play with before? Oh, I got drafted. I was with Woody Herman's orchestra, it's about as big as life. tell, but it worked. So, any other questions that I might get embarrassed by?
Oh yeah, my mother always said, you know, when we were bad boys, she said to me, you don't know what life is about till you ate government bread. And by God, we ate government bread. I was in for 2 years, 11 months, and 14 days. So I know what government bread was. We all knew what government bread was. And she was right. I was in the 135th Army Air Force Battalion Unit. Now this unit specialized in a lot of things. MPs, guard duty, radio, you name it. It was just a little, like like a family. We could go from outfit to outfit. I was in 5 outfits. With the PBY, every now and then we'd go out, for maybe we'd get a report to the submarine around, you'd go for aerial reconnaissance, and once in a while they would drop probably a charge. But then I used to go for, our transport planes were the C-47s, the 54s, I think it was. 54, I think, was a 4-motor job, I think it was, and for transport. I remember when I was guarding the Stephenville airport, we had to check these planes that came in all the time. I remember I checked this C-47, this girl was coming off the planks, off the runway, and I looked at her, and she says, I know you. And I said, I know you too. I said, we went to school. Her name was Rose Husband. I don't know if you ever know her or not. She was in some kind of an outfit. And I said, Rose, my God, it's a small world,
One of my first posts was on a radio tower. And we had orders that you follow the orders that are posted. So a convoy comes along, and the Jeep was leading it, and I challenged the Jeep, and the major got out and says, leave us in, sentry. I says, do you have a pass from the communications officer? He says, leave us in. I'm a major. Do you see what my rank is? Yes, sir. But you don't have a pass, you can't get in. So this Navy officer come out, and he had enough gold to sink a battleship on his arm. And he says, what's the trouble, sentry? I says, the major doesn't have a pass from the communications officer. The Navy officer says, let's go. Half an hour later they came back, and the major shoved the pass in front of my mouth, in front of my face, and he says, here, let us in. Well, I give him a present arms, and in he went. The next morning, my commanding officer says, I hear you had a little trouble on your post yesterday. I says, no, sir. He says, carry on. That was it. That was all I ever heard of it.
So you got to see Paris.
Yeah.
And what was your view of that?
Well, I didn't get much of a view because the first time we seen it, we just drove right through it, never stopped. We were advancing too fast. I had a good time in the Army. I saw places that I wouldn't have been to.
On the barren shores of the Aleutian, in the tropic heat of the Pacific Islands, in the sub-zero cold of the skies over Germany.
I was assigned to the 99th Bomb Group, 248th Squadron. I flew 12 missions successfully.
Time they were rolling these here little hand grenades down the hill, and one of them got me in the arm and got me in the leg. How it got me in the leg, I don't know, but it got me.
Our mission was over Volkswagen Aerodrome in Austria.
After the sergeant was killed, I yelled to the fellows, I said, well, what are we going to do? How we know? None of us have got any experience. We're all beginners. There wasn't an experienced man there except the sergeant. So we didn't know what to do. So one of the fellows said, well, rather than get picked off and get killed, let's surrender.
We dropped our bombs, and then in getting off the target, we got hit by flak, and we got hit heavy. We lost 2 engines. One engine was on fire. We immediately left the squadron and went out on our own. We tried to unload the ship as much as we could and tried to make our way back to the Adriatic Sea where we could possibly be rescued by the Air Sea Rescue.
So I said, all right, if you all agree on it, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't do it. So they all agreed. So there was 6 of us left out of our squad.
We were very fortunate. We were not jumped or followed by fighters. We made it as far as Varazdan, Yugoslavia, where the mountains stopped us. We couldn't get any further. And we had to jump at a certain point, which was Varazdan, Yugoslavia. We were, as I jumped, I was next to the last one out of the plane.
All of a sudden, the minute we surrendered, 3 other German soldiers popped up in the trench.
Our chute did not open, so I had to actually claw my chute open. I was fortunate I had a chest chute instead of a back chute. When I jumped, I pulled the handle, and there it stood in my hand, and the pack was still on my chest. I had to claw that open to get it out, and as it popped open, I hit the ground at the same time. A fraction of a second later, and I would have been dead.
So they took us out of the trenches, took us back to a command post, and they interrogated us there.
So that was my gift from God for that day. We were captured by the Croatians, of course, and then turned over to the Germans.
And one of the fellows said to the German who could speak English, "We've got a sergeant back there and a couple other fellows that are dead, and can we at least bury him?" And he said, "Sure, we'll let you go back and get him and bury him." So we did that. There's 4 or 5 of us went back and we dug, well, not too big a hole, but just enough to cover him up and cover the dirt over him anyway, and put a rifle and then put his dog tags on the rifle.
Turned us over to the Hungarians and then back to the Germans. I had a final interrogation in in Budapest, Hungary. There I was assigned to Stalag Luft 3 POW camp in Germany.
So, well, anyway, after we finally got to this camp, it was down in St. Johann, Austria. It's I think it was about 30 miles past Strasbourg. That day, there was an air raid sounded, and the guard said to us, said, "No, we have no air raid shelters here. The only place you're got to go up on the mountain." And the mountains were like the Catskills are, or the Alps are. They just go almost straight up. And we'd go up, I would say 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, and we'd sit there on the side of the mountain, spread out, over the mountain, we'd spread out, and the planes would come in, these bombers, B-24s, would come in, you could see them open their doors, you could see the pilot right into the cockpit, and he'd be right at eye level with us. And he'd drop his bombs, next plane coming through, they'd drop their bombs, they'd get the powerhouse, they'd get the dam, they broke the dam one day there. Some days they missed the dam, but they knocked the powerhouse out again, see. But I had to give those guys credit. Flak going up all around them, all the time. But they went right straight through that flak. And that took a lot of guts.
Americans fighting. Fighting over an area extending 7/8 of the way around the world.
That night there, of course, we slept a little anyway. And in the morning, this motorcycle come running down the road there, messenger, going like mad. I had this kid with me, rifle grenade. I said, you're going to have to take him out. I said, he looks like he's in a hell of a hurry. He hit that thing right in the front wheel, and that guy went flying through the air. Feeling better now. What was his name? Consequently, we shot at Sherburne, and that's where I lost my best friend. We've been losing guys right along. I got shot through the head right in front of me. And sniper. And that kind of turned me down on snipers. And of course, we got into Sherburne, up to Sherburne, going up a hill. That's where I traded my M1, a scout then at the time. Turned my M1 in for a Thompson submachine gun. 245, never fired one in my life. Very simple thing to operate too. And we started up this hill overlooking Sherburne. There was a stone wall there, and I remember this guy had a German soldier had a Mauser, had me right in the sights, never pulled the trigger. I was popping at him with that 45. I don't know if I hit him or not. Anyway, he disappeared. And I went up that thing with that Thompson. And I'm going to tell you something, that weapon there is something else. In the meantime, took my buddy who was there, which became a squad leader, assistant squad leader, and I got his assistant squad leader, getting advanced in rank very rapidly. Process of elimination. And we started losing people. This probably seemed like hardcore facts, but that's the way it was. I mean, a lot of years I even started yapping about this crap. And that's the way that was. Then we pulled back, we rested for a day, and we started to swing down the other side of St. Lo. And we ran into a Panzerlager. We got a whole bunch of tanks, mortars, the whole thing there by Carentan. And we got clobbered. We lost everybody, just about everybody. And that's the first time I got hit. They got me pretty good that day.
I had 3 medics with me, so they took care of what the men where they belonged, and then the casualties began to come in. I was working for 3 days and 2 nights without stopping, carrying litters, taking care of the wounded, all kinds of wounded. And I laid down at 4 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd night, and they woke me up again at 2 because so many casualties were coming in, and there was no other doctor. The only other doctor was from my regiment, but he had a wound in his hip, and he couldn't help at all, of course. So we started to take care of them, and as I said, I just lay down, they woke me up again. I tried to get up, and I could not get up. I couldn't hold my head up. I had to roll off the bunk and then grab the end and then bring myself up. So that to this day, I've got fused vertebrae. After that, I strapped more, I made splints on these people. So they were evacuating 4 instead of 10, so I had more and more able-bodied men left that they didn't know about. But I wanted to let the 82nd Airborne know, and let the Army know anyway, that we were there. So I collected a lot of sheets. I got them from the hospital, from this German medic of mine, Frank Ruppy. And we went out maybe 200 yards south of the hospital in a field, and we set up sheets like this, layers of them, making 2 like this at a peak with a mark down the middle, 2 AAs, then we put bricks and made a cross with bricks, and then another 2 AAs, which signified American troops, 82nd Airborne Medical Installation. And believe it or not, a plane came by, a P-38, and I waved at it, we waved at it, and it dipped its wings. 3 years after I came back out of the Army, I met a fellow lawyer. He was going to take care of my business, and I mentioned that to him because he'd been a flyer. So he said, do you remember anything like you ever hear anybody tell you? He said, that was me. That was me. He said, I saw that. I'm the guy who dipped the wings.
We were operating with the 9th Tactical Air Force. Frank might know something about that. P-51s. Every time we got in a little trouble, we'd call. And we running a bunch of tanks there. We were making an attack with the 3rd Armor, and they cleaned our clock and cleaned the 3rd Armor. Of course, I was laying out these tanks, burning, black. You wouldn't believe what a mess with that. Tank on my flank, that's somebody supposed to be on our flank, never got there. The tank on my flank got me. Killed the guy in front of me and the guy in back of me.
Again that day we were advancing a little bit further, and too fast in fact, because the Germans were raining cannon shots on us, and the Americans were dropping their shells also. So we had with us a first lieutenant and a sergeant. The sergeant had on his field radio, big batteries, and the lieutenant called back to headquarters, lift your fire. We're ahead of the other troops that should be even with us. And they did, but unfortunately the Germans were listening. And when they saw that, they knew where we were, where we was. And an 88 shell dropped among us. I was flat on my stomach trying to dig under myself with a couple of other officers and enlisted men. And the shell exploded, and right after it did, I looked up and I saw a head in a helmet going up in the air into the next field. It was the sergeant. We had the field radio, and the lieutenant was dead, and a good friend of mine, Captain Brannon, was saying, how can I live with my guts hanging out? And I crawled over to him and I examined him, and I could see that he was spurting blood from his left thigh. I put a bandage on that, a good tight bandage, and I said, Mal, you're not bleeding from your abdomen. I looked at his abdomen, he was all contused from the battery, the big battery that hit him in the abdomen, so he thought that his guts were hanging out. He had his hand over like that.
At that time, they had lost all them people in the Battle of the Bulge. That was on the north side of that, and the Germans attacked there and couldn't get through, so then they come down the middle. So then we proceeded on, of course, to Germany. And our orders until we hit Germany, fired upon, level it. And that's precisely what we did. They had a surrender flag up there, and they fired a shot, lined the tanks right up, and level it.
Town could be like Johnstown or like that. And happened to be, I was riding in the back of the half track, and usually I'm up on a machine gun. What just happened, I don't know, my lieutenant was up there. And as we was coming in, they had snipers somewhere, and one of them bullets came in the back of that half track, ricochet, you know? And so we just ducked down, you know? And somebody come on the radio and said that that sniper is up in that steeple. And so automatically the lieutenant, he just put that .50 caliber up in that steeple, and that was the end. of the sniper.
The following day was a very sad day for me because I left the man I had made a good friendship with. He's the man in this picture, Lieutenant Lehman. And he was hit by shrapnel. He dropped to the ground. Colonel Mendez, the battalion commander, picked him up, put him on his shoulder, and was trying to get him out of the way when a sniper shot Lehman on the colonel's shoulder.
I think in March, Major Bryant sent for me, and they took me down to the INR Intelligence Reconnaissance to the regimental headquarters. It was a hell of a deal. And I had charge of the INR for doing our job after the war. They transferred us from northern Germany to Dachau. You got to see Dachau, you got to see something. And we moved in, our unit moved in there, and we moved all these people, all these SS guys, all their women and everything there, and we moved them all out of there, took over the residential section, looked like king, set up roadblocks, this and that, and kept picking up all the SS guys we could find. Bad place, Dachau. Nobody would admit they knew what was going on until we marched them through. Bad, bad stuff.
Bye.
On September the 2nd, I was in the VJ parade through Honolulu. And when the Marines marched by, there was such a roar that you wouldn't believe of the spectators. They knew what us Marines had done in the Pacific.
I am so proud. I could cry, you know, you get sensitive. Of our officers, they were wonderful. These officers, they not only bravery, but taking control and running that company, you know, under all the conditions. And I had our lieutenant, Lieutenant Tibbetts. He was such a morale builder. The old saying is, you follow the leader. You've got good leaders, you're going to have good troops. And these officers, I'm telling you, they were all fantastic.
We never dreamed any of these things was happening. We didn't know what war was. We just figured you go in there, if you get shot, patch up and come back home. Well, it's not like that. You see your comrades don't come back with you. And they also, which is a very important thing, not to stress it, but to let others know how serious it is. That the men that we have lost, we don't always bury them like at the same time. Wrap around and a chrome rod between their legs, and this was all strapped around you. Then we were lined up on tables, taps would play the American flag, and they would slip into the water. This is very, very strange for anybody that's like around Wilbursville or other places to imagine happening, but to see them is enough to carry you for many years.
Times I didn't think I'd come out alive, you know, had that feeling. Well, I just had the idea that I'd be killed, you know.
The little thing in the Ten Commandments says, "Thou shalt not kill." Right? I got hold of the Catholic precept, and I took my first communion right in England. They could have fooled me about not killing anybody. Regardless of what anybody says, you hear people talk about killing people. I remember the first two guys to this day. I can see their faces just as plain as day. After that, never looked at no more faces.
Oh boy. There were two brothers. They were the Jones boys. They were from Ohio. They were the nicest bunch of guys. They got it on our way to, we had to go up the trail to the San Fernando Valley. And there was an ambush up there. There was a kid from, he was a BAR man, he was Lawton now, he was from Georgia.
Eddie Davis, Carnes, Sergeant Palavano, and myself. That's me down here. We were gone.
Then there was another March. There was another kid, Marc. He didn't last very long with the BAR too.
Everybody killed and wounded.
It was getting so, if you got friendly, it didn't last very long. That was the only bad thing about the war. You could make friends, but geez, if you lose them, that's sometimes faster than you can make friends.
Unlike a lot of guys, we had a lot of guys that were good at their job. A lot of them got killed, and I was doing my job like many others. Thank God we had them.
What do you remember most about the war?
Can't tell.
You live in the best damn country in this world. And don't forget it, and if they need you, go for it.
The battle's on, and peace is all around you. Sleep, soldier boy.